following what you just brought up, I have some questions, okay? I want to get the answer from the board. I know it's going to go ahead. We're going to vote. We're going to vote in a referendum, but we're also going to vote the other way. Will you explain to me how we vote? How do we get a letter, and to whom is it sent? Who gets this letter in my household? Do I? Is it just to my house? Yes or no?
The taxpayer.
The taxpayer. It's based on my tax bill, because you see, our house is owned 50% by my wife and 50% by myself under a trust. So the question is this a one vote or two votes? Or am I supposed to vote as the taxpayer and tell my wife, you can't vote? I mean,
All owners will have a vote, and we're going to get into all the specifics about that as
well.
why.
We need to know it now, Christy.
All owners have a vote. I'm answering your question.
Owners.
All owners.
So let me ask you a question then.
And
in my case, there are two owners in our house, so there'll be two votes from our house. So my neighbor, who happens to be a widow, only gets one vote? I mean, I'm asking the questions about the fairness of this voting. I'm sorry?
Maybe she's put it in trust for her children.
Well, let's just imagine the children have a trust. Do the children all vote? 5 children in
Anybody
a
has
trust?
ownership in the house has a vote.
Well, this is really fascinating.
But Frank, who's paying the taxes?
This is fascinating. Are you telling me this is a fair vote?
Who's paying the
That the
taxes
woman
for
next
your
door
neighbor?
only gets one vote and I get 2 votes because my wife and I are both on? What kind of
Who pays the
voting
ballot
system?
box?
No, it's
I'm sorry, it's not like a ballot box. I'm sorry.
Well, it is
When
in
we
terms of
we
the
have to do a
situation
count,
you
we say
just
we want
used.
51%. It's 51% of what? Of what?
Frank,
Bob?
if
Of
you
what?
and your wife both own the house, you have 2 taxpayers in your house. If your neighbor has, there's only one person who owns that house, there's 1 taxpayer in that
So
house.
she gets 1 vote and we get 2 votes. That's fascinating.
How many would you have
My
at the
vote's
ballot
kind of
box?
50% then or 100%?
But you and your wife share the tax bill. She has the tax bill
No,
all by
no,
herself.
it's only my name on the tax bill. Did you ever look at your tax bill? It doesn't say. I'm
If
just
your wife
curious
is
because
co-owner,
this system,
then
I'm going to
she-
tell you right now, when this thing unfolds, people are going to be startled by who's voting and who's not voting, and who has the right to vote and who doesn't.
Does the trust vote?
And I'm not getting a very good answer from you, if I may say so from the board. There's a
Frank,
lot of
the reason
confusion.
I'm not answering is the Community Affairs Committee has felt very strongly, and the board, that we want everyone to be fully informed, and so we have volunteered to write a letter to all households within the
It's
village
after
so
the
they know the
fact.
process.
This is
No,
after
it's
the-
when the voting time is. We're not going through it all right now.
What
We
if we
have,
don't
I can
agree
send
that
you a
it's
handout.
a fair
I can-
voting process?
If
I
you
mean,
don't-
we've already talked about whether it's fair or not, but you're telling me, you're going to tell me how the vote's going to work in November or October or something.
We'll tell you when it's time to vote. We're going to send out a
Oh, that's
handout
great.
about the
Christie,
district
I don't
and
think
all
it's
the
a very
processes
fair voting
involved
process.
with it.
Homeowners, Frank, it's simple.
I'm sorry?
Homeowners
Okay.
vote.
Hold it,
So-
hold it.
So Bill,
Hold it.
so Bill,
No,
I'll
no,
address
stop.
it to there. So in addressing Bill's question, in my case, in my house, there are 2 homeowners.
Right.
Under-
But you said he was in a trust.
It's in a revocable trust, and my Mary's name's on it and my name's on it.
But my question then is, does a trust vote or,
Well, I don't know. It says 50%, trust is 50%.
well, if the
on
letter
my
goes to
Mary's.
the trust,
I'm sorry?
if the letter goes to the trust,
Well, then will I ever see it?
I don't know. It's a
Tell me
question.
this is a fair voting system, board. Please tell me if this is going to be, I'm telling you, if you think it's bad now, you wait till that letter comes out.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Just to
please.
follow up on Frank's question, do we have a number of how many property owners there are in the village? I submitted a list of questions over 2 months ago. I've yet to receive a single answer. There were at least a dozen questions. Among those were what Frank just asked, what Mr. Cavalier just asked, about trust funds who own houses, etc. But you know, bottom line is, I want to know how many property owners there are so that we know when 51% or 50% plus 1 has been hit. And secondly, I want to know what the manner of finding out who the owner is. Is it a deed search? Because in my opinion, the only fair way to find out who property owners are is a deed search. Not a tax record, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there any other way to find out who actually owns a property and how many owners there are? That's my question.
There can be almost any name on a tax bill. I mean, as a
Right.
commercial property owner, I get lots of tax bills in the name of my company.
Right.
for a property. So it is confusing.
Kelly's questions have been submitted to the state. Just to explain that it's the state's process. It's a federal legislation process for units of less than 50 that require a notification process. The Community Affairs Committee has consistently agreed that we would be sending a similar notice. The notice, a copy of what the state uses, was in the packet. We submitted Kelly's questions to the State Historic Preservation Agency representative responsible for administering the program. I have some verbal conversations with him, but I do not have anything in writing, because they'll be the ones that will be receiving the notices, and they'll be the ones that will be making a decision about the threshold and the number of required responses, or in opposition or affirmative votes for the process.
Okay.
They won't be received by the village.
Well, then,
Point of
okay,
clarification is my understanding from the comments back from the state is that the state is looking to us as the village to provide the list of who the property owners are. Is that supposed to be coming from us or from them?
My understanding is when there's a district that is nominated that is less than 50 structures or less than 50 entities, the entity making the nomination to the state provides the list of addresses, and the state then has that list to send out the notices to. The state administers the notification process. I asked where that list typically comes from, and verbally they've indicated that it typically comes from the property tax rolls.
okay.
So they would be interested in seeing the list that we used, is the information or the request that I've had from the gentleman down at the state.
But we have not done an immense amount of, I'm sorry. We have not, that means when Community Affairs chooses to send out this letter to answer Mr. Cavalier's question, we're going to need to be doing a significant amount of work. We're either going to make an assumption that there is Mr. and Mrs. in every house, or we're going to have to do an immense amount of work to find out how many owners there are for each individual property so that we can make sure that each appropriate property owner has a letter. I mean, how are we as a village planning on addressing that, considering that it may be approaching quickly, and that's something we're going to have to address, and knowing our own workload? What's the process?
Katie, if I can just add to what you're saying, this is Frank, to answer your question, this is the representation of the 4-page letter that everyone will receive. Who everyone is, we don't know.
That the state has used. The Community Affairs Committee will decide on the final letter. That's the one the state has used for smaller towns.
It's not going to be like this?
It hasn't been decided.
It'll be close to
All
this.
the critical information.
Okay.
Yeah.
To
It's just kind of.
to answer, yeah.
It's a state letter.
It's a lot of words here.
We'll put it that
It's a
way.
lot of words. But to answer Frank's question, it says here, each owner or partial owner of a private property has one vote, regardless of what part of the property the party owns. That's what the letter says. So I guess you need to negotiate with Mary.
It's okay with me, but I'm telling you, it's fascinating that we really don't know. Sitting here, going ahead with this, we really don't understand the voting process, which you've told us is so fair, and so fair for the homeowners in town. I'm amazed, truthfully amazed, that wasn't searched first before we started running down this road and have all this divisiveness.
Didn't he just tell you, Frank?
I'm sorry?
Let's
he
call
just
the
tell
rest
you
board,
what it
He
please.
told me to my satisfaction, Bill, and I'm sure he'll
Each
send out
property
emails about
owner.
it.
Out of
Each
order,
property owner.
out of order.